She went out with the door opening, but she didn't see anyone. She was afraid, and I went straight to the room at the little boy. And she got drunk like that. She saved herself, no baby. This sound became inside the hall, and he was sending it in. Things as if he is looking for something, and suddenly, you hear the sound of feet coming up the stairs and heading to her room. Immediately she raised the speaker, ring 911, and I told them that a stranger broke into the house, and he tries to reach him, and she is now in the room. Welcome to the world of secrets and shadows, where terrifying stories are breathtaking. If you're a fan of excitement and mystery, do not forget to press the subscribe button to receive all new updates, and press like if you like the story. Let's take a journey together into the depths of horror. Our story today is completely different from the rest of the stories. Of course, a real horror story, and a realistic events happened, the year 1977 AD, and they also produced a movie about it, after the horrific accident that happened almost a year ago. I saw the movie personally before shooting the video, and I will show you this fast, but because, do you have an idea about what I will talk about? There was a babysitter, or a nanny, let us say. She was sitting with a child, and suddenly she got a call, a stranger from an unknown person, and he was telling her, introduce yourself to know the story of this unknown person. And what does he want to reach him exactly? Don't be afraid. You know with me everything about this terrifying story, which makes your brain explode. From the many times you think and shave, all you have to do now, but you go and get you a couple of coffee or anything like that, light eat it and come. This is the religion of Christmas. She was born on March 21, this year, 1936. Of course, she was the oldest girl in the family, and she also had a younger sister, who, her name is Rita, and the youngest of them are all their baby sister, and whose name is Shireen. This family was living in an area called Boneyville for a long time. Then they decided to move to Missouri, and specifically in Columbia City. They owned a restaurant and a cafe in the same city that they live in it, and at the same time they also live in the rural. The second one was known to be a respectable family, very lovable. All the residents of the neighborhood loved them. According to the mother's testimony, also says that her daughter Diana, completely different from the rest of her sisters, Latifa, and loved and smart in her studies and social too. I mean, she behaves with her friends in the neighborhood and in this school. Everyone loved it very much, and since her father and mother were merchants who taught her since she was young how to depend on herself, and really, when she grew up and became she is 18 years old, she started to struggle to get on a job, but unfortunately he didn't swear to it, so I decided she works after the official vacation from the university, a babysitter or a nanny, to collect a couple of dollars for the new school year. After she worked for a while in the neighborhood that she lives in, and in the neighboring neighborhoods in the area. Every time love him. Why? Because she was very patient with the children, so their reputation started to expand and spread in the area. Suddenly got a call from someone one day, the families, and offered them a sum in exchange for she will be a babysitter for their child, who was 3 years old. But of course at the beginning Diana refused. She said that the amount is very small, or small I mean, in return for the service that I will provide to you. But this insistence of the family and their adherence to his religion was a kind of weirdness and a little question. They were Egyptians, much to come to their house, and by any means, so they stood up. They offered her a sum more than the amount that they offered it to her the first time, but she refused it. They also came back and negotiated with her and offered her a sum bigger and bigger than the amounts they gave at first. Once he tempted the religion with the amount and unfortunately agreed, and I wish she didn't agree. The house where you will work was very far from the city that she lives in, and in the area, rural and completely isolated from the society. Arrived. Diana is home at 7 in the evening, and the mother and father received it. When they opened it, the door, Diana was shocked, strange and never reassuring. Even their actions and their behavior with her was in a kind of strangeness, and she went to her room and passed the hall and saw their relatives, who looked very scary, as if they are dirty. They are not human at all, you say, Diana. Even their actions were a little childish, and they were mentally retarded. Bedouins of the mother and father. They sit with Diana and explain to her all the rules of the house, and what are the things that you have to do, and the things that you don't have to do, and they told her also, you see, our son is very annoying and you must bear it. And the father went, also he brought his weapon and started to teach her his way. Use if they don't exist. She was attacked defending herself and their son. Because just like the area we live in, rural, isolated and dangerous, the important thing is to put it, a weapon next to the door from the inside, and they ordered it not to open. For any stranger, focus with me, any stranger, because you will know the end of the story when I repeat it. This part in particular, the important thing is to turn off the lights, which was at the entrance of the door, and they went out and they stay up late because they were invited to party after. Hello, 2 hours, it was 1 hour and a half, and the weather was very cold, and rain and snow went. Religion pushed the little boy and took him out to a room, sleeping to sleep. Then she went down to the hall to watch on TV. While she was sitting watching, suddenly she heard one voice knocking on the door faintly, and she was hesitant to even look with the door opening to know who's standing outside. He came back ringing again, but this time curiosity noticed, and she said, I will go only I see with the door. I will not open for him. And really she went out with the door opening, but she didn't see anyone. She was afraid, and I went straight to the room at the little boy, and she got drunk like that. She saved herself, no baby. This sound became inside the hall, and he was sending it in things as if he is looking for something, and suddenly you hear the sound of feet coming up the stairs and heading to her room. Immediately she raised the speaker, ring 911, and I told them that a stranger broke into the house, and he tries to reach him, and she is now in the room with the child, needs help as soon as possible. When they asked, including the address of the house, and its name is street and the area that she lives in, suddenly the connection was cut. While the mother and father were outside, they called on his religion to be assured about their son, but they were surprised that the phone was disconnected. They returned a bitter ring. Second, also the same thing, the phone is disconnected. Poverty. They cancel their evening and go home, but as soon as they arrived, they were surprised from those who saw it. They found a light, the entrance that they turned off while they were going out working, no, and also the windows of the heart, and the curtains are torn. And as soon as they pushed the door and they entered the house, the scene was unbelievable. They saw him at all. It wasn't normal. He found Diana falling on a floor, suffocated by the phone wire in her body. He is also exposed to 6 stab wounds, 2 of which are in the neck and the rest on different parts of her body. And the hall returned, no tell you, it became a blessing of blood. After they saw this horrific scene, immediately they went up to their son's room to check on him, and first they didn't open the door. Also the scene, guys, was very, very disastrous. Sorry for the description that passed. I describe it now, but this is what happened to their son. A letter. He found his head separated from his body, and all his limbs intermittent, and each part is thrown in a corner in the room. Of course, the mother and father, there is no word to describe their reaction. After they saw the scene, they called the police right away, and when the police came with the investigators, discovered, guys, something very sad. After the killer assaulted her, it tasted more than a stab, but she didn't fall right away. She was trying to run away from him, because they found prints of blood from her hand on the walls. Then they used police dogs to they discovered the traces of the criminal more, and they found traces, feet from the back window, and it was broken, the digging pad, that is. Then I took them dogs behind the trail for more than 10 miles almost, until the antiquities went down to the valley and was cut off. Suddenly the strange thing in the topic is the one who they invented a police station in the area. They said it was a plan from the mother and father, and they said also that the boy is adopted and not their son in the first place, so they used him as a weapon in crime to keep suspicions away from them. And some denied this thing completely, and they said it is impossible. If they really wanted to get rid of it, it would have been finished in much easier ways and without leaving them to behind them any trace of crime. And because of his face difference, this site that was between them, they didn't reach a solution at all. So they went, what did they do? They gathered all the inhabitants, the black area, and they started. They investigate them, of course. This time before the apartheid issue. But it is a lie. I mean, racism is still practiced against blacks for a day. The important thing is that they said that blacks are bigger, a segment in society that commits crimes. We must start our investigations with them. But also after the investigations, You don't show anything with them, and you don't reach any solution. Never. So what did they do? Then they went and brought relatives. The mother and father that you talked about at the beginning. The story which originally made you doubt in them against your will, and also the same story after they investigated them. They didn't get any result at all. Okay. Oh Ahmed, who did this, and is it possible that the person this is in quantity, this intelligence is to hide his identity? No. Hurry up, he will know everything. Now there was a girl. Her name is Mary. She is 19 years old, and she is also a waiter. Children, and she used to work in a house very close to the house was where his religion worked. The strange thing is that a year ago she was killed in the same way she was killed. Diana exactly in it. The mother entered, the father saw her. She is suffocating and stabbed everywhere in her body. Oh God. The difference was that some organs of her body were missing. At the same time they arrested someone. His name is Floyd. He was 35 years old, and he works as a trash. With him they arrested him for committing a crime. He was killed for his wife, and the way he killed her was very much brutality. Then they responded to him for 10 hours. Continuous, but unfortunately it is just a waste of time. They benefited at all. There was no relation or any something that links him to a crime, religion, all the leads of the crime. It is still mysterious until now, but they judged him execution for the murder of his wife due to differences. Family news spread in the region and even in the state, and the people started to live in fear and panic, and at the same time they were very angry because he is the criminal. He is still free, and the government until now is not. I arrested him before they executed him. He confessed by confession. Very dangerous, he said. Get rid of his wife. He was, with his help, one of the close friends whose name was Mahler. And indeed when they searched and they registered from the list, the wanted at the time was 28 years old, and she was tying him a very strong relationship with the father of the child, Jackie, who is, and this sheik made them doubt him more because he was knowing the location of their house and everything that belongs to them. So they went and brought the baby Jack's father and started. Both of them were questioned. It was said that Muller went. He used to come to the house and train on weapons and so on. He was a rowdy person, and he was always exposed and harassed to his religion and tried to reach it by any means. Religion of course replies to it harshly and refuses and says about him that he is a retarded and crazy person. He started to feel with insult, and he started to get sad and say to himself that what is wrong with me? Why don't you accept me? So he said to him, okay, I know how to get you. Knock on him one day and asked her to come and sit with his children since she is a babysitter. Of course, refused. The disaster is that as much as he reported it, I don't know, did he have a hand in the crime, or because, for example, the close friend wants to hide from him, and at the same time and his son who was killed, he has a brain. What matters? After the police investigated the most person in the same breath, the area where they lived they were able to reach on the side and skin investigation. But look at the animal, how he was able to convince them. He told them, I am the close friend, and Diana also knows me since I am sitting 24 hours. They have it at home, so if I think, for example, that I kill Diana as you claim, what makes me go tired? I wish to break the window of the house and enter from it with all the soul. Simply, the doorbell came and I told her I forgot something at home, or if he wants a weapon or something like that, like this, and she knows me and opens the door for me. And really, his words were true. When Ed and his wife came out of the house and Diana arrived, they told her not to open the door is for any stranger. And I mentioned this thing too at the beginning of the story because it was for Diana, a person that you see every day, familiar. So if he asked her, for example, you opened the door for him that he forgot something, for example, or send it for something you opened for him. Some of them are convinced. They said, your words are not logical at all. So they took him to a barn, local outside the boundaries of the area that they live in. In it, I honestly don't know what is the secret behind this investigating in this particular place. If you were, do you know, for example, or do you have information like this? Write to me, by God, down in the comment. Anyway, they took me to this place and brought a device with them, lie detector, and all night long they were responding to it. But since the lying devices at that time it is old and it was a little weak in reading it for the results, and they weren't even counting on them. Total dependence in investigations at that time. He took advantage of this point and was able to study on the device. The test then skips the investigators gather all the reports and they sent them to the judge after he saw them. The judge and look at it with all regret the release of Mueller because, as they said, there was no evidence enough or tangible to prove that he is really behind the crime. But this malicious Mueller, after what happened, the acquittal is not stopped here to file a lawsuit and judge him against the investigators who accused him and wanted he moved then to Arizona and lived there for the rest of his life. For the year 2006, when he died at the age of 3, as for the family, religion is psychologically destroyed, not for the reason that their daughter died in a horrible way, no, because they didn't get enough justice from the government. To this day, the situation is very honest, suspicious, and makes you doubt more than one person, so you don't know who is behind the curtain. This crime exactly about me according to the data and what I concluded from the story. I say Mueller honestly because he was the closest person, which makes you doubt him easily, especially after the situations that he did with Diana, who, if you have a second opinion and doubt that it will be maybe one of the family members of Ed and his wife, or trash man fluid, or it could be the mother and the father. I mean, we don't rule out this thing. Here we have reached the conclusion of our episode for today. We hope you liked it. Write us your positive comments that we will show in the next video. Wait for us in the next episode.